A speed dating tightrope walk through a child youth sport environment that's implementing research into practice. The club in question is AIK in Stockholm. They play in the Premier League in Sweden. 1,500, nearly 1,500 youth players. The club is basically looking to reposition itself within child youth sport, both structurally and pedagogically, challenging a lot of these rigid, generic, linear pathways and pedagogies that are everywhere in football around the world, and believe me. I've been in a lot of places in the last few months and they're everywhere. There's a lot of assumptions with this, and we're challenging this. Just a reflection for me, for last year I gave a presentation here and somebody asked me, how do you measure if it's successful? Well, how do you measure success? And you know, a lot of these generic, rigid, linear pathways measure success by, oh, we've produced, that word produced, as if the child is a product, this professional player. Really, we can argue, is that survivorship bias? Talent is a graveyard of evidence, nobody sees the dead bodies. Or maybe just some information I have received just now, which fits in with this, as many as possible, as long as possible, in the best environment possible, that in the club, we will increase membership by 10% next year. Players. That's not new players coming in. It is a bit. It's actually players staying longer. So that's maybe some way we can measure. I'm not interested in numbers. I'm interested in why you're staying. I'm not interested in how many left. Why did they leave? That's very important. It's those stories. They're really important. So, just a quick thing, AIK Youth Football decided in 2017, the same year it broke the Swedish transfer record for a teenager, selling a teenager for 7.5 million euros to Dortmund. It decided to dismantle its academy, delay selection of 13. It was selected in 8. And our work is driven by these 3 strategic principles. We want all children in AIK to feel good. Well-being, priority. Number 2, follow relevant documents. The United Nations Charter of Rights of Children. On the 1st of January, the UN Convention on the Rights of Children will become law in sport in Sweden. This will mean it will influence government funding to clubs. This is a game changer. And actually, based on a child youth sport environment, remember that it's a Premier League club as well, around the United Convention on the Rights of Children. This sets the level here. And the third one is, yes, we want players longer in under 16, 17, and we want our players to play in our senior team. Of course. So, what we did is the club initially employed a full-time value worker, somebody working with the club's values, how we interact. What we say is, I'm not AIK, you're not AIK, we are AIK. It's this interaction, the space between us is AIK. Employed a head coach in every group, 8 to 12. These teams are formed social, schools, neighbourhoods, friendships. That's how the teams are formed, and we want to keep them together. Each age group is about 8,500 players. Parent coaches, we will have a fully qualified coach working out on the pitch, interacting with coaches and parents once, twice a week, working with the pedagogy, working with how we work, and also, in many ways, we receive a lot of information ourselves about what their thoughts and what they're doing. We built a research and development department in the autumn of that year, and 13 to 18, we will have a selection of an academy, but players are also able to choose through their own motivation how often they want to train. So maybe there are players that don't get into the academy, but we will offer them the same opportunities with coaches, qualified coaches. Maybe there's really great players, or we consider some of our best players, which is obviously quite non-linear, what is best different stage. But maybe they want to play other sports. We will also offer those opportunities. We're trying to keep the system open. There's, yes, positive and negatives, but we're doing our best. And we're learning as we're going. The AK Research and Development Department, basically we're looking to generate and understand our own knowledge of our own environment, etc. And I think this is important. This is our mantra. We start where people are at, not where we want them to be. I can't walk out to a parent coach and talk about nonlinear pedagogy in day one. So we have to start where they are, not where we want them to be. I think, just a bit about my research, I'm calling it at the moment ethnography of football interactions, and it's just investigating form of life in AIK youth football before and after the decision. And well, the after decision is an emergent form of life. And before, obviously. And what I look at is what is inviting and inhibiting children to take part in sport. What is it? Like, here we have no ball game signs. That's not inviting children. We're talking about we need to improve the welfare and the health of children, and we have these everywhere. In Ireland, where John Giles, one of the most famous Irish footballers of all time, was born, on his street they put up a placard saying, "This is where John Giles plays street football." 20 metres away there's a no ball playing sign. Here is a pensioners' park in Copenhagen, inviting pensioners the opportunity to go on swings and slides and climb, based on their abilities. It invites, it doesn't inhibit. I think this is, I've been there, so it's amazing. So, like it, Martin, yeah? You'll be there soon. So, basically my work is, you could say it's based on a paradigm of complexity. It's about the dance, not the dancer. Very important. I'm going to show you what I mean by this, is that within a dance there's lots of dancers interacting. And it's about these interactions over time. And of course every dance has a story, which is why we're using to capture these stories, ethnographic methodologies, to give a broader, deeper understanding. With a skilled intentionality framework, look at that. That's a great lens to look through for zooming in and out on forms of life, on the culture. And I'm using Bronfenbrenner's model for just organising the data, etc. So what I mean by the dance, not the dancers, is captured here. It's this is Pavel Gatchuk, who's probably one of the best players to play ice hockey in recent years, the most talented player. And what's interesting about him is that in complexity, it's like, you can say it's skills or self-organised under constraints, maybe you could think of that way. He was born in a very poor area in Russia, very little money. His parents couldn't afford hockey sticks, so he couldn't break a hockey stick. If he broke a hockey stick, he'd have to wait maybe a few months or whatever for his parents to afford a new hockey stick. So he actually learned to play ice hockey, protecting the puck, protecting the stick, doing no slap shots. So he played that way. What is he most known for? They called him the ice hockey Messi. He is most known for protecting the puck, protecting the stick, and scoring goals by not using slap shots. And then, as I spoke to an NHL coach in hockey, he says, now we have coaches in America play the Pavel way, doing isolated technique training around how Pavel plays. So he actually, what people couldn't read how he played. So his skills emerged under constraints. So, and constraints can be negative or positive. Of course, poverty can be negative as well. But in some way in here, he found something. He found a solution. Skill, making the best of what he got. In some way, it's a fantastic story. It's Todd Whitworth, his coach, and I checked this for Pavel. This is spot on. So, AIK Research and Development Department, I'll look at this. We made a collection of references for how we're going to work. Nonlinear pedagogy, AIK style, which is values, principles of play on the ecological dynamics, the theoretical framework that underpins our work. And football interactions is a term we're using kind of to help change the learning dynamics, moving from actions to interactions, because we're still stuck in this idea of action, training the technique, training the action. We're looking at this, trying to give some sort of value to this. this pass, what's the interaction in it? What's the interaction in the dribbling? We're looking at the interaction, the dance. So, okay, ALK style, we employed a full-time worker to underpin our interactions. Ecological dynamics is the theoretical framework for macro and our work in the microenvironments of skill. Nonlinear pedagogy, this has been brought up a few times. Ideas of representative learning design, designing in affordances, etc., manipulating constraints. This bit about football interactions was interesting of how we looked at it, and we defined it in the research and development department in how affordances elucidate individual environment interactions at the microsystem of practice, and how these interactions are counted for formative life accounts for these interactions for social and cultural reasons. The example I'm going to give is you have two 8-year-olds living in an apartment building, one on the top floor, one on the bottom floor. This 8-year-old's single mother, works all day, his grandmother comes to look after him, he rarely gets downstairs and out to play with his mates. The 8-year-old at the bottom has older siblings out the back garden kicking the ball around. Both arrive up to your training session. Who is that talent? Yeah, so basically skills of history. These children arrive at your training session with a bibliography of experience and opportunities invited them up to that moment of time till they're standing in front of you. So this is where we're trying to capture ideas of football interactions somewhere in this. And then principles of play. In possession, search, discover, exploit, space, gaps using football interactions. Football interactions, pass, shoot, dribble, movement off the ball. Or you're in a recovering ball. So recovering the ball, you close space gaps, minimize opportunities for opponents. So all session design is based around this. You either have the ball or you're trying to get the ball back. There's no transition really. So search, discover, exploit space gaps using football interactions, close space gaps, minimize opportunities for opponents to utilize football interactions. It's a very important term in our work. And it's quite a rich language to use with coaches. When coaches start speaking more about interactions, it adds a different feeling to what they're doing. And it's very interesting. I will tell you, this is really what's interesting is what I find in my work is that parent coaches get this. Start where they're at, not where you want them to be. It's the coaches that with their A and Pro license that have been doing the same stuff for years have major difficulty because their worldview is being challenged. So everyone complains about parent coaches. I think I've had mainly positive experiences working this way. So this is just what we do, the theoretical framework, ecological dynamics, the pedagogical concept, nonlinear pedagogy, the football concept, football interactions, our principles of play, and our identity. So this is what we're bringing out into the environment, working in daily interactions with coaches we have employed to work with parent coaches, with qualified coaches, in the day-to-day basis, face-to-face. We ran an educational program over a period of a year, from January to December 2018, with these coaches in key positions. Lots of formal, informal discussions, water cooler moments, call them what you want. And it's the idea of, this kind of idea I like is that of dropping how do you pronounce it? Dropping the stone into the pond. So local interactions happen many times over and over. Proximal process, we call it. Influencing neighbouring agents, and hopefully out into the more distal processes, maybe out even affecting macro eventually, maybe. So, so in my work, I have just want to share some of the, I'll stay here, some of the data I've collected. That the old microsystems of ALK was very much based on early selection and ranking, followed by selection and deselection. And there was a bias in the selection periods of players born earlier. In fact, the last academy selection was the kids born in 2008, when they were 8, turning 9. And of the 12 players selected, 9 are born in the first 3 months. Nobody born in the last 6 months. So, you know, we look at that. And what's good, I've actually done another analysis of the players now in 2011, and it's actually quite even through everything. And the distribution of resources, of course, were favoured to the academy players. And there's some really, I think, there's some really good insights. This is from a parent coach. And here he is explaining about the early selection. It was a shock. Kids disappeared. Friends sad and frustrated. They felt alone in the world. These are 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. Then a few years after, this is the same coach commenting on now, he works with a team that hasn't gone through a selection. This is the year that we had the early selection, 30 to 40 kids quit the club. In this team, 2010, nobody has quit in his own team. I think this is an interesting coach that's been through both the process. He's been in the club for over 10 years. In the practice plan, full of explicit instructions, rehearsals, sequential patterns, and these were mainly used to win games. It was like PlayStation coaching on children. You pass to him, you pass to him. And they were hammering it out in practice, all these patterns, and they were smashing everyone. And winning games, and coaches were looking at their careers and looking like great coaches. And in the end, then, as this coach says, it looks good, but it's not really that good. This is the coach reflecting now on the time. And on right time, this kind of actually created more prestige, and it developed a hierarchy. These coaches chasing results, chasing a career, creating a hierarchy. And here's another coach speaking about the drills, the ABC, not very representative. A lot of coaches are go, 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 go. This is a good drill, this is how we do it quickly. So that was how it was. And just some of the emerging information coming out since we started working with the pedagogy deliberately through interactions daily with coaches, with parents, with players. I really like this first one. Since we started to implement this approach, the kids have almost stopped asking, when can we play a game? I really love that. Differences in engagement, motivation, ideas of that, players are getting ownership of their own decisions. But we should then looking at the parents. Yeah, I like this one. Why are you doing the same session as last week? I was asked that last year, and it actually wasn't the same session. It just looked like a similar session. The whole intention was completely different. But I remember reading when we came out at AQ when the information came out of removing the early selection. The parents said in front of everyone that their child was too good for other kids. And saying, as this coach was like saying that in front of parents, what's he saying at home to his child? And then, of course, in the same coach again in his group, that a lot of parents, there was a lot of discussions, but a lot of parents were relieved because they had older children who had already gone through the academy. They knew the anxiety around the dinner table in the coming months coming up to that. They knew the anxiety after not being selected, They knew the anxiety of being separated from their friends. But then there were other parents who took their kids away. Now, this is the first group that went through. They took their kids away because it was obviously better somewhere else that their kids would play. I can tell you most of these parents want to come back. And as I said, then why are you doing the same session as last week? In Swedish coach education up until 2014, this was very much the dominant paradigm. You notice what's missing there? There's no opponent. This show, explain, show, explicit was very much, and it was called the Technique Register. It was a book. There was 40 different techniques. But in 2014, they switched the coach education course, looking for more representative ideas. So the game should be based on attack and defense, because then it will help with learning. And this is good because this actually, with parent coaches that went through this coach education course, we could actually start talking about representative learning design with them because of just of that statement. Because they were told that, yeah, your training should reflect the game in some way, have these different moments. So we could actually bring in ideas like that. So that helped us. However, still in the book, they did have these prescriptive A, B, C, D passing things as well. So yeah, we kind of avoided that. So yeah, so and then coaches. What we try to do now is that through our interactions with coaches to make it less hierarchical. So you've seen that the same coach who spoke about the hierarchies says that he's seen the Scottish around methodology, pedagogy, and it's now becoming more including. And here's another coach about discussion about reflecting over the practice and beginning these ideas. Beginning in 2000, he was one of the first coaches to adopt this. He was totally against it at the beginning. First coaches to adopt it, and how he felt that he could speak a lot. He could dialogue. The club was more open. There was no hierarchy. He could approach us. He had ideas he wanted to work in, and he was actually experimenting himself. We use this coach now actually to hold coach education for us. He's just a parent. He speaks their language, and he's now, we bring him, and he goes through his year, speaking about his year, what he's thinking about, what was a mistake, what was good, I tried this, it didn't work. And it's very powerful when one of the parents goes up and speaks to the club. Really powerful. And I think you should read this. This is from another coach. I'd really like you to read this. I think this is a quote in a single edition. I think this is really powerful. These interactions, helping with the knowledge mobilization, putting the research into the hands of the people that need to use it, but we start where they are at, not where we want them to be. And then this is kind of funny because this is really, in the language in Swedish we have lika barn leka bäst. It means basically the best of the best. We hear it all the time. And it goes back into, we need to select where to get the best kids playing with the best. This is a culturally resilient belief in Sweden, and it's in the language. Altavars, know that everything in this box, very much describing the isolated technique work. You have the technique in its box, and you work with it, isolate, repeat it, and you take it out of its box and you put it into the game. And then ordning area, that is like order, structure, and conformity, and that's very much in those patterns. That was like you pass to him, him to him. It looks good, the parents love it. It's perfect, it looks really professional, there's cones everywhere. And the kids. And these words are all very much intrinsically linked. So that's a bit of the work I'm pulling out at the moment. As I said, this is emerging. It's not definitive, but the ideas of participation increasing and people staying longer is an interesting. But I want to know why. I'm very interested in why. Maybe the other clubs around us are really bad and they have to stay, there's no choice. I want to know why, and we're actually now looking into the why. I think this is as many as possible, as long as possible, in the best environment possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you I have a few minutes, do I? This has been really speed dating. 5 minutes, all right, very quickly. This is a session design. Intention of the design. The design, and actually this word of point guard, which is support from behind, the kids came up with this themselves. Target, point guard, support in front, support behind. So what I'm going to show you now is a game we're playing with kids. They're 7 and 8. This is in the end of March, early April this year. And what we're doing is we are trying to give value through this design of moving away from the ball. Is it harder or easier to defend a bigger space? It's harder to defend a bigger space. What does that mean when you have the ball? Instead of saying, no, you must spread out. So these are 7 and 8-year-olds at a camp with target and point guard. This is the first time they've ever done this, by the way. These are 9-year-olds. Same game. This is in Swedish, it's coming up. It means search, discover, exploit, gaps. He decides to pass. It doesn't mean he can't dribble, but there's a little bias to the affordance of a passing just because of the design, but it doesn't take away the dribbling. Here they are, 9-year-olds. Yeah. Very simple. Then here we have the 7 and 8-year-olds again, and this is only a few weeks ago. And here they are with no target point guard, but trying to create themselves. This is actually, what day is it? This is Friday last week. This is 10-year-olds. And what's interesting, watch the pattern in the first few seconds they form. And what we're working on here is that if you're in possession of the ball, you are the one to break the pattern, not the defender. Because if you break the pattern, that means then you get the defense to join your dance. And then you break the pattern to try and score. So there's the pattern. Here we have the pattern, and the defense is self-organizing around it, minimizing gaps in space. He breaks the pattern, doesn't succeed, plays. Right, he looks to start the pattern again, and this guy fakes the pattern. He fakes it. I just want to quickly show this one again, and then we're finished. Pattern. Defense organizes around the pattern. Looks to break it. Doesn't work out. And I love this faking to build up the pattern again. By the way, these are mixed groups. There's no selection of any players. These are randomly selected because it's extra training. It's all random. I like this because this pass outside the foot. I obviously spent hours with him on a cone.
Did you do a creativity session?